Welcome to the Dodgers Prospects Podcast. I'm Casey Porter of Dodgers Daily, joined by Tim Rogers, as I am each and every week of Dodgers 2080. We have a very busy show today. Tim, we're going to talk all about the relief pitching. We started last week with Oklahoma City. We're going to move now to Tulsa. And if we have time, maybe a little bit of Great Lakes, but I think Tulsa is probably going to take up this entire podcast.
Yeah, well, thanks, Casey. Happy Sunday to you. And ready to get rolling. Talk about AA relief pitchers or relief possibilities.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. So we're going to get to them. And I'm not even going to say all the names yet because there's so many of them. I don't want to take up that amount of time. So I'm just going to have you just dive right in.
Okay.
Good luck.
Well, So one of them is, and I just look at the roster and I go alphabetical. I go, is it a reliever or starter? And so at the top was Jacob Cantleberry. I first photographed him in spring training of 2020 before our nightmare happened. And he was number 6. He had a single digit. It was kind of interesting. But he has some, kind of some interesting mechanics. I don't know. You've seen him live, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually featured him, interviewed him right at the end of this past season. Yeah, out of Missouri, went to San Jac out of high school, Illinois area. Interesting story about him. He played on the same summer ball team with Cody Hosey. So.
Oh, no way. Huh. Okay, that's cool. Well, yeah, he's it looks like definitely a reliever. And actually, I have a question for you. I'll get to it in a second about him. So he is deceptive and hides the ball well. It's kind of funny. He looks like my youngest son when he pitched in high school. Yeah. The way he is coming, he gets the ball, drops the ball way down behind him, and then comes a bit over the top. Sounds like he's got a good change in fastball. Now, the question that I have for you, Casey, it said where I was reading that he was working on a slider. What's the progress on that slider? Do you know?
He added it this year, and honestly, by the end of the year, it was one of his best pitches, and he was really happy with it, which is great because, that backdoor slider with lefties works so good against right-handers. And we know that they're going to throw really well against lefties. I mean, left on left, probably if you look statistically, and I really haven't researched this, so this is more of just being in the coaching industry and just kind of noticing it over the years. I would say left on left, just matchups probably are the most dominant for pitchers of any matchup in baseball. Yeah. So when you have a lefty like Jacob Cantleberry who adds a slider, John Rooney has this type of pitch that can also get righties. They're no longer that what you call the loogie guy, the guy that can only come in and matchup settings for one out. They can actually come in and get through maybe even an entire lineup once because they can get both left-handers and right-handers out. So that slider, he developed it this year. It came on very strong for him, and he liked it by the end of the year, so I think that's going to be big.
That's good. I mean, for him to have 3 pitches like that, like you said, you can actually go through a lineup pretty well with that if your arm is up for it. The next name I had on, he had a rough year, was Tanner Dodson. They got him from the race for Luke Raley. I saw him briefly in spring training. He had a really rough year. I don't know what your insights are on him. I saw that he throws hard, and he used to be an outfielder. He was used to be a two-way player with the Rays and the Dodgers. I guess are keeping him at pitcher. What did you see from him?
Have you ever seen Far and Away, that movie with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise? This is kind of a throw it out there, but anyways, okay. So they're getting ready to get in this race, and the last horse left was this horse that nobody else had taken, and Tom Cruise goes up and he goes, "Well, what about this horse?" And he goes, "Well, hell, you might win the race, but you also might end up in Canada."
Oh, geez.
Because we're not exactly sure where this is going to end up. That was Tanner Dodson's fastball, if that makes sense to you. Hey, man, when it's in the strike zone, watch out because it has late movement. He hit 100 miles an hour with it, and anytime you trade a AA guy straight up for a guy like Luke Raley who is getting major league at-bats, that the organization sees a lot of value in him. Okay, so the key is throwing strikes. He struggled throwing strikes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He is an extremely talented young man. Went down to the developmental list from June 23rd until August 4th. and really worked on some things and came back. And when he came back, he was a lot better, Tim. So this is a young man where Dodgers fans might go, wait a minute, this is another 100-mile-an-hour arm. Where in the world did this guy come from? And you know what I'm saying? So kind of like Jose Hernandez was.
Yeah.
So change up, plus slider, effective against righties and lefties. It's simply going to come down to, can he harness that fastball? Can he be that horse in the race that uses all that speed and all that ability to actually go straight and win the race and not end up in Canada? Does that make sense? That's entirely up to him. If he does that, he is just off the charts nasty with his stuff.
Yeah, and if you look through the Dodgers prospect, the pitchers, most of them do have the walk rates are not very good, but the Dodgers are they're looking for stuff, and they're trying to harness it. Some of these guys will, and the ones that will are going to be amazing, and the ones that don't, it's kind of a bummer.
They get moved usually,
Yeah. The next guy I have, even though he does a lot of starters, he's still a starter. I'm not positive. He projects as a starter, and it's one of the top prospects. The guy they got in the Mitchell White trade was Nick Frasso. I just like what I see of him as a reliever. It could get him on a fast track. Yeah. A lot of arms and legs there. Like, I think I've compared a few of us have compared him to like kind of a little bit of a right-handed Alex Wood. He's in the mid-90s, tops out at 90, and for him it's coming off injuries and stretching out. And you go, well, the Dodgers have 2 million right-handed starting pitchers. And not all of them are going to make the rotation. They already have kind of a solid rotation right now with some injury question marks, but still, even with the injury question marks, they got 5 more right-handers that are still rookie status that aren't even in their top, alleged top 5. And so I look at a guy like Frasso going, what's his path? And so it's just something to look at. He's been covered a lot, so I don't want to cover him too much, but I'm just kind of bringing that name up. The guy hasn't pitched in quite a while, but I want to bring his name up, and I hope he's still he still looks like he's still at the organization. Is Max Gamboa. No relation to Alec, but he was converted to a reliever in 2019 with Rancho, and was really good. And he was an all-star, and then he missed almost all of 2021 and missed all of 22. Like the rest of them, it's command issues, but and also for him, obviously health. And so I'm hoping to see something from him. Really nice kid. It's one of those, you're just kind of a favorite, a good guy, and you hope the best for him. I'm going to let you take the next Gamboa.
Yeah, Alec, and backing up just a little bit to Nick Frasso, if you remember, he was in the Mitch White trade. Him and Moises Brito came over for Mitch White and Alex DeJesus. Alex was a young man I know you got to meet. We were very high on him. He was projected, we both projected him, I think, as a third baseman. He played a lot of shortstop growing up, but I think that was a good trade for both sides. Mitch White, I think, was somewhat blocked with the Dodgers. He was one of those guys that was on that taxi plan that just went back and forth and back and forth. So good for him to get to Toronto and get some consistent major league innings behind him. Very talented young man. But Nick Frasso, you mentioned it, lots of knees and elbows, kind of gangly and I don't want to say uncoordinated, but it's just uncoordinated enough looking to where as a hitter it's not comfortable to face. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that you project him. I don't know if I think what you're saying is you don't necessarily project him as a reliever in the sense that that's the type of stuff he has, but more so just with all of the other depth in the organization, that may be his fastest path to the major leagues. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I do think his stuff certainly projects as a starter and not a reliever. So I think we're both saying the same thing in different ways. But Alec Gamboa, I think Alec Gamboa is another one of those guys like Frasso. His stuff projects as a starter. He can be anywhere from 93 to 94, somewhere in that range with the slider. And he is another one of those guys, when his command is on, I call him the artist. When he's hitting that outside corner and when he's commanding the baseball, he's very good, but he has stretches where he doesn't do that. He had a stretch last year where he struggled to throw strikes, and you and I are both big on Alec Gamboa. He went to Fresno State out of high school. Some people will say, he's an all-state wrestler. He was a great football player, and you talk to people in Madtown, Madera, California, in the Fresno area, some people will say that he's the best multi-sport athlete in the history of the Valley. They are that high on Alec Gamboa, so he's very tough, very talented. This next year, Tim, for Alec Gamboa, it's going to be where the rubber meets the road. I don't think there's any other way to put it. I think he's talented, and it's all right there for him, right there. Just go out and pitch the way you're capable, and you're on your way, and you're going to have a chance to reach your goals. His family's a huge Dodgers. They're huge Dodgers fans, so it would be amazing for them to see him on the mound. That's big because Jacob Amaya just got traded away, so that element of it is big. So that would be really cool. And the rubber's going to meet the road in 2023 for Alec Gamboa, and I cannot tell you how much I'm rooting for him to go ahead and make it happen, right?
Yeah, I did a feature on him way back in 2020, when I was just kind of reaching out to people, and it was one of it got the most hits. He's very popular up there. I had a question about him, about his changeup. How is this changeup? How is it?
Very good. Yeah.
Okay.
His stuff is, he has the potential to be a three. He may add a cutter someday too, but he has that good slider, and then the fastball and a good changeup. But again, it all goes back to, can you land it in the strike zone?
Yeah.
And it's one of those deals, where it's a little bit up and down, so it's right there for him. He had, he actually started the season 8-0 as a starter.
I know,
so,
yeah.
So there was good there, and then so there was periods in this last 2022, and I hope this doesn't sound negative in any way, because I think anybody who follows either Tim or I know that we do not get negative at all towards anything. So I hope it doesn't sound like that, but just simply put, ups and downs. So got to eliminate the downs, keep the ups, and you're right there, right?
Exactly. And anything that we may say that even sounds negative, these guys already know it. They're already working on those things.
Yes.
And we don't try to rub it in their face, and we're not trying to be critics at all. And we definitely are rooting for these guys. The next guy I got is San Diegan, Kyle Hurt. Yep. Even though he's a current starter, a lot of them project him as a bullpen guy. They got him with Alex Vesia in the Dylan Floro trade. I'm a big fan of Dylan Floro and what he did in the 2020 World Series. But man, Alex Vesia alone makes that trade really good. And then Kyle Hurt had a really good in high A was really good and struggled a bit in double A. I got my eyes on him live a bit in spring training. It was kind of cool to see, especially knowing he's a local guy. I had a friend of mine played with him in high school. And so, but yeah, a lot of, mid to high 90s fastball. They say, his change is good. The slider's improving. Maybe he stays in the rotation, but it's also the opportunity type thing. And with a lot of these guys that throw really hard, it's also going to play up even more when they're in the bullpen. There's probably going to be another tick up. And so when I see these guys with the high 90s, I'm like, it could get up to triple digits if you're, coming in
maxing out.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different thing, even though it does seem like, Casey, you and I have been around, and it used to be a starter would go out and he's throwing 80-90% effort, because he's trying to go 9. Yeah. Now it's like they're coming out and they're throwing, 110% effort, in the first.
Of course,
inning.
they want to get the 5 so they can get the win.
Yeah.
But other than that, beyond that, it's pretty much gravy for organizations like the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. And so the next guy I've got, he's dropped a bit as a prospect, but I still like him. He had a rough year, but it's Landon Knack. I think that guy's
injury.
Yeah,
injury. He couldn't get anything going because he was hurt all year.
Yeah, the thing is, he has an injury history too. In college, he had injuries, so it might be it's best for him to be a reliever. I don't know. It's not.
See, the injury part of it to me makes you more likely to become a starter, because a starter puts you in an obvious routine. You know exactly when you're going to pitch.
True too.
You can set your routine, your routine is the same between starts, like my next day I do this, the day after that. Whereas if you're in the bullpen, you're getting up, you're getting down, you don't know what day you're going to pitch. So I would think that a more injury-prone guy would be more likely for the club to keep in a starting role. He's just got, like you said, 4 pitches and four pitches that all could be plus pitches.
Good ones, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he has a fastball that can be in the 95, 96, the big changeup and slider and breaking ball. So all the stuff is there. I think he's kind of in that Cody Hosey category right now to where, hey, he's had too many stops and starts to make a determination either way where this guy's going to go. He has the big-time talent. So let's just see if he can stay healthy and see what happens, because if you would have talked this time last year, he was one of the biggest prospects in the organization, no doubt.
Yes,
so
sir.
I don't really think it's fair to make a outright judgment one way or the other. I've had a chance to talk to Landon, wonderful young man out of East Tennessee, went to East Tennessee State, big time dude, big time family, wonderful young man. So big time stuff. Just got to stay healthy. Yeah. We'll see if 2023 brings health for him. Hey, going back to Kyle Hurt, a couple of interesting anecdotes on him. His dad played football at Ole Miss. Of course, Kyle came out of USC.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and his grandpa played football for the Dolphins, okay? And his grandpa was 6'6" and signed for a grand total of $500 to play professional football for the Miami Dolphins. And if you remember, right before he got sent up to Tulsa, which I have not talked to him about this, but I think the ball between high A and double A is way different. I have talked to several guys about that, and it is an adjustment period. Did not specifically talk to him, but I think he was one of those guys that took a minute to get adjusted to the new ball in double A. But if you remember, he had the 5-inning no-hitter for Great Lakes. It got rained out. So big-time stuff. He threw a 91-mile-an-hour slider earlier this year. 4 pitches, hit 97 with the fastball this year. The slider is anywhere, probably sits 87, 88, 89. Hit 91 this year. If you can throw a 91-mile-an-hour changeup, you are a dude. The changeup is 87, 88. Then he has kind of a slower breaking ball at 80. And the way that the Dodgers really used him and Lyle Lockhart Jr. both was in that piggyback role. One would come in and pitch like maybe 1 or 2 innings, and then the other guy would come in and pitch the next 5. So not necessarily classified as a starter, but as what the Dodgers call the piggyback guy.
Yeah.
And he was really fantastic in that role. So I think that piggyback role is something that provides a lot of value to Kyle Hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fun because he in 2021 it was a little rough for him, and for him to have a lot of success in 2022 is good to see.
Yep. He needs, his deal, in my opinion, too, is confidence. When he's pitching with confidence, he's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a common refrain, and sometimes we forget how young these guys are, and they're still maturing, and physically and of course mentally. I'm still trying to grasp with that myself.
He found out about his trade while he was driving down the road on his ESPN app. That's kind of funny.
So bizarre.
Yeah, no doubt. All
right. Next alphabetically, I had Jordan Leasure. Yeah. I saw him briefly at Rancho in 2021. I can't even speak right now. But barely. It was regretful how we were able to cover. It was tough. But he sits 98, it seems like, or sitting up to 98, sorry.
Touches, yeah.
Yeah. And then, it sounds like he needs to work on his secondaries, and just kind of an interesting thing. He gives up, it seemed like quite a bit more fly balls and grounders just of the numbers I was looking at. I might've been looking at it wrong. How much have you seen him then?
Lots. Yeah. I got a chance to talk to him. I saw a lot of him at Tulsa beforehand. Got to see him quite a bit at Great Lakes. The fastball, I had him touching 97. So you mentioned the secondaries, and the slider is very good. It's about 8 to 10 off the fastball. So the slider is developed. The secondary he tried to develop this last season was his changeup. And so he started throwing it more and more and more in games, and it's something that he's getting more and more comfortable with. it is not a completely developed pitch. So I think when you say developing the secondaries, I think it's specifically the changeup that he's developing to become a 3-pitch fastball slider changeup like most of the relievers are.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, now that Guillermo Zuniga has moved on, I'm not sure this guy, if it's not like Nick Robertson or Mark Washington or somebody like that, I'm not sure this guy isn't the next guy in line to be the closer. I'm serious. I'm that high on this guy. He went stretches this year. He was like kind of interesting. We went from Hurt to Leasure. Kyle Hurt's grandpa went to Tampa College. So did Jordan Leasure. If you talk to the Tampa College guys, you know, they're pretty high on him. Jordan Leasure, okay, he went from May 29th, check this out, Tim, to August 10th, from May 29th to August 10th, and gave up a grand total of 1 run. Okay, he's been a quick mover through the organization. His strikeout to walk ratio was almost 4-1 last year. This is why I think he's going to be able to hit the 0, which is 100, eventually as he continues to grow and as he adds that changeup. He's going to be 100, a 96, 97, 98, maybe touching 100 every now and then with good command, a slider, and a changeup, with a strikeout to walk ratio of 4-1, which is what it was last year. It was 4.3-1 in 2021. To me, that screams closer because he's confident. And the thing, if you watch his demeanor, he's very calm. He has a very, very Mariano Rivera type calm demeanor to him. Nothing phases him. I really think that, of course, the Dodgers had Guillermo and different guys that, they wanted to see everybody in different roles.
Right.
I think
that's what they do.
I think, that's absolutely. I think definitely Jordan Leasure could be a closer candidate in the future.
And he's also, he was a 2021 pick, and it looks like, just looking at it, what I saw, it looks like he is a reliever. They have him definitely targeted. It seems like for the bullpen. You never know with the Dodgers, but that's what it seems like.
No, Jordan Leasure is 100% undoubtedly. No question, a reliever. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. The next guy I think we're going to talk about, I think you could debate that, but if you're going alphabetically like I am.
Lockhart.
No, I've got Percival next.
Oh, I got Lockhart after Leasure. You just did a full report on him, so I was gonna. Do you see Lockhart as a starter or reliever?
Okay, Lockhart's in that Kyle Hurt mode. He was used like Kyle Hurt was.
In a
piggyback mode.
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to say necessarily reliever closer. I'm going to say he's a long inning guy. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
I think Kyle Hurt's a 3, 4, 5 inning guy. Whether you want to use that in a piggyback role or a middle relief long inning guy or a starter, whatever you want to call it. Lyle Lockhart Jr. is a left-hander that, in my opinion, is a multi-inning guy, long inning guy. I think he's a 4, 5, 6, and if he's going well, heck, you ride him for as long as you can, because when he gets in a groove, nobody's more competitive than Lyle Lockhart Jr., man. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's in that, 88, 89 to, when the adrenaline's going good, 91 to 92, which you go, hey, well, that's not, he doesn't throw the ball through a brick. Go and look at his strikeout numbers.
He's left-handed.
Strikeout numbers are very impressive. So that just goes to show you, velo is not always what strikes guys out.
Right. Deception, keeping the batters off balance. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Now the next guy, Cole Percival.
What do you got on him?
Well, he was a free agent. Was it 2020 or 2021? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was 2020. You corrected me on this because I thought he was eligible for the Rule 5 draft, and he wasn't. And it's interesting because he originally turned down the draft and then signed the free agent deal, and then he turned down the draft coming out. So his deal is interesting, but he was not eligible for the Rule 5 draft. So if we do our math backwards, this is 2022. So 21, 20. 20, I think.
So he's UC Riverside guy, the son of former Angel Troy Percival, right? Troy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was about to call him Kyle Percival. That's not it. A lot of Kyles out there, but Boy, he was good in single A or high A. Not, I mean, yeah, there's a difference. And then it looked like his adjustment to double A was rough. I speculate on some of these things, just could he have been tired? But he's a 5-pitch guy. And including, but if you count the fastball, he throws both a 4 and 2-seamer.
Correct.
Excuse me. And then, change curve slider. So he's got the starter mix. But it seems reliever, and of course, you get biased because his dad closed out the 2002 World Series against the evil ones. So that you think Troy Percival, you think Cole Percival's a reliever. Big guy, big heat. I wrote big heat and big dude.
Yeah, 6'7". He touched 9 this past year. That's what they call it now. Hey, I'm looking for that 0. That 0 is 100. The way he put it was, I hit 9 this year. I was like, 9. Oh, 99.
Yeah, I know.
So, he hit 99, like you said, 5 pitches. And I think if you put a true serum in him, I think he would probably tell you he would prefer to be a starter because he likes the just the routine of it. And then, but having said that, if you watch him, do you remember the Birdman Mark Fidrich in the 70s? Just kind of the excitement and the quirky funness of that situation. Cole will remind you a lot of that. He is very, very good in the pressure moments, and in the big moments, he knows how to handle them. And he's really tall, and so he has that great extension, and he's just awkward enough, kind of like Frasso, to make it really, really uncomfortable. And I had a chance to talk to him quite a bit, about 2 weeks until the end of the season, and the PRP injection he had. I don't know if you remember that, but in college,
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the plasma. Oh, I can't remember exactly.
It's not. It's to avoid Tommy John.
Yes, they take the plasma out, they mix it up, and they put it back in, and it heals it faster. That seemed to work for him. So that's good. Hopefully that continues to work. But I will be very interested to see, because he is Rule 5 eligible next year. Okay, so you would have to think that the Dodgers are either going to have to put him on the 40-man at the end of next year, or they're going to lose him. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Somebody's going to pick up Cole Percival in the Rule 5 draft in next year's Rule 5 if he's not on the 40-man. And I think he's another one of those that had a hard time transitioning to the baseball. And then also it's kind of like if you have 5 pitches and you're trying to only throw 1 inning, so what mix do you get through to that day? He has the sinker and the 4-seam, like you said, and the slider curveball chain. So I think he's kind of in one of those situations to where I don't think limbo is the right word to say, but I think he's in one of those forks in the road where he could go either way, whether it be, kind of like we talked with Kyle Hurt. Don't necessarily call it a starter, but a long inning guy. Or he could be, a guy that comes in and maxes out, like you talked about a minute ago, and hits that 0 and is throwing 99, 100, 101 with a very, like his dad did, and be a very competitive closer. Now, I think there's a fork in the road.
Yeah, and it's with a lot. I mean, it's kind of Captain Obvious here. It's with a lot of these guys. These guys are on the AA roster. A lot of them either have been or will be or eligible for the Rule 5 draft. I mean, some of these guys have already been through it and weren't chosen yet. So we'll see what it's a big time for them. And with the we've seen it already. The Dodgers don't seem to do a lot of protecting of relievers.
Yes.
It's very sketchy. They just don't do that very much. I guess Victor Gonzalez might have been one of them after 2019.
Well, but too, though, there wasn't a Major League Rule 5 last year, so there weren't as many spots this year. Yeah, so I think that also played a role in it too.
Yeah, they didn't lose those. Yeah, they didn't lose anybody last year. Yeah, no one did. The last one I have on here, and he's one of those guys. I have kind of a big 3 of guys who are probably starters, but I think would be great relievers, and that's Emmet Sheehan.
Just talked to him. I'm going to release his interview this week.
Very good. Yeah. DodgersDaily.com. Be out there and look for that. He caught a lot of people's eye because he struck out 8 batters in a row during an Arizona Fall League game. But the stuff, another 2021 pick. That's going to be quite a draft. When we look at it in a few years, we're gonna be talking about that one for quite a long time. Big K totals, fastball and changeup are strong. This breaking stuff allegedly is coming around, so that that's going to help determine if he's going to be a starter or not. You got to have at least 3. It's preferred 4, but that's where it's got to be. But a reliever that could come in with a real fastball, a real high 90s fastball, and a good changeup. That's a good reliever. There's a guy in San Diego that went to the Hall of Fame with that type of combination, and then he even lost his fastball for his last few years, and he still got in the Hall of Fame. That's Trevor Hoffman. Yeah. So what do you think about Sheehan? Do you think he sticks to the starter? Or?
I don't see any doubt about he's 100% starter in my mind. Of course, the Dodgers, they know what they're doing. I don't. Everybody has their own opinion, right? So that's not a criticism of anything, whichever way they decide to go with him. But when you look at the effortless motion that he's able to reach, he hit 99 this year. Yeah. And he's looking for that 100 too. And, it's not a maxed out deal either. It's not like he's just trying to throw it. Right. Some guys, they can hit 95, 96, but it looks like they're just trying as hard as they can to get it up there that fast. Emmet Sheehan, he's so long, okay, Tim? And I'll tell you another thing, the reason why I think he's going to be a starter. And I hope this doesn't get a little bit too geeky, but I think this needs to be said.
This is the place.
So he's 6'5", right? So he has that great extension. So it's like he's handing the ball off to home plate.
Yeah.
So his 99 is effortless, man. There's more in the tank to that. And then another one is, as he was younger and at Boston College, coaches that don't have like all the TrackMan and Rapsodos to actually analyze data with, they always tell you to get over the top of the ball, and work the ball down in the zone where you're getting ground balls and this and that. Well, then you get professionals and you get the Rapsodos, you get all the data. He dropped down to a 3/4 slot, right? Which means that now he's 99 at a 3/4 slot, which gives that riding effect,
right? An
even better riding effect. And what it also does, Tim, he gets what's called ride and run.
Yeah.
Okay, so he naturally gets
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you're looking at 99 with ride and run, okay, good luck hitting that. And I want to see how many times hitters can hit it in 6 or 7 innings. Not just 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and, again, when I talk about Frasso and Knack and Sheehan, it's more of a numbers game. The Dodgers are so loaded right now. It's starter. Again, we got 5 guys, and we talked about 4 of them. It's Papio and Grove. And we got Big Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone, and Andre Jackson.
Yeah.
And so eventually there's only so many spots. And hopefully we have Julio Urias for a few more years after this. And we still have Tony Gonsolin. We have Dustin May. And now injuries happen. Things will sort themselves out. But at the end of the day, these guys need to keep moving forward. And for them, if it's become a starter and stay in AAA or become a reliever and go to the majors, that $720,000 minimum wage might make some differences there. But, just because a guy starts as a reliever doesn't mean he stays that way. My classic one's Pedro Martinez. That guy was one of the best 8th inning guys back in 1993 before the Dodgers traded him. Because they didn't think he could be a starter, but and that used to be more of a way where they'd bring guys up and they'd relieve for a bit and then ease into starting. So that happened quite a bit. I'd like to see some of that again. I like that pattern, but the new technology out there will probably say certain difference, and some pitchers can do it and some can't. That's the biggest thing. I think the Dodgers have all this technology and everything. But most importantly, they get into the mental parts of the guy and try to figure out what's best, how he would react, how he would be in certain situations. So they're not going to go and just make someone a reliever just willy-nilly. They'll make sure that that's a person that they believe can do it and would be better for him. And they'd want to work the buy-in part. That's. It's always, whether no matter your job, you go and you work with somebody and you go, hey, I'd like you to take this position. Sometimes you got to sell them on it a little bit, then you want their buy-in. And so if we can get, guys are going to buy in. The Dodgers have that culture that Casey, you had that interview with Jesse. Guffey, what, 2 weeks ago, something like
a
that.
couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a culture there, and these guys do want to make the major leagues. And of course, if they can't do it with the Dodgers, there's also trades. Some of these guys may be traded, and it'll be good for them. You talked about Jacob Amaya real quick. I'm very sad that he was traded in some ways because I wanted him to at least get that game at Dodger Stadium as a Dodger.
No doubt.
Like DJ Peters got to have. And even Travis d'Arnaud got his one at bat with the Dodgers. And Jake didn't get the chance for that. But at the same time, guy's going to have a better chance to play, I guess. The Dodgers feel a certain way about him. That's what they think. I think some of us disagree with that, but they're in charge, and I don't know, Casey. Did they call you before they made the trade? They didn't call me.
No, they certainly didn't. Certainly didn't.
So,
and they make the right decision more times than they don't.
They do, and sometimes they do make trades for the good of the player. They did that with Ross Stripling. They did that with Mitchell White. They just felt that they would be better off in getting those opportunities. And Ross Stripling, regretfully, is going to be pitching for the Giants, but he got a nice contract.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Yeah. I'm glad you said that because I totally agree that, I think they left Ryan Noda off the 40-man so he would get picked up at the Rule 5, which was better for him. So now he's going to be on a major league roster with the A's instead of just toiling around in AAA with the Dodgers. I think they did that intentionally for him. But hey, and also, before we go and before I get your final thoughts too, I wanted to reiterate, we use the term starter, reliever. Yeah. There's kind of, that's kind of muddied up because then you have piggyback guys and then you have openers. So the Dodgers have been creative in not necessarily pinning a guy into one or the other as well. And I think a lot of these guys fall into that category. So, hey, again, another show that went way too fast. We could have went on and on and on about this. Wait till next week when we get into Great Lakes. There's just a whole bunch of them there. Yeah, so, hey, final thoughts, Tim. Got about a minute and a half.
Yeah, it's great to go through these guys. They're excited to go. They're exciting. We obviously have a little bias in rooting for them. We want them to do well, and the Dodgers are very flexible. They're trying to teach these guys not to just be a closer or just an eighth inning guy or just a this or just a that. They're trying to keep them flexible. That's best for their career. So that's my final thought. Okay, man, another great show. So, hey, for Tim Rogers of Dodgers 2080, I'm Casey Porter of Dodgers Daily. Hey, hopefully go and visit both of our sites and check out some of the great content we have on both of those sites. So until next time, thank you for tuning in, and go Dodgers.